Hello everyone, it is Wolf here, and welcome to another Kerbal Space program video. Now, today this video is going to be more for newer players or whatever. They're people that are getting to the game for the first time. And I want to talk about one of the things I noticed that, at least what I think is one of the biggest noob traps to the game is you get to the screen here, okay, whatever, you get your normal start screen, wherever you go to start a game, right? Go to start a new game, and then you're presented with this here. And the thing is, people look for these, and right away they see at the top Sandbox. And this here is what I consider one of the biggest noob traps. And the reason why is okay, you go and click start, you just go and click start game on Sandbox because over I don't care, it's a sandbox save. Anyway, you get to the screen, and the first thing you might do is you might be looking around. Hey, you maybe watch someone stream or some videos or whatever. You might, but you don't have a lot of knowledge on the game, so you go to vehicle assembly and building, and this is the problem. People get presented with. Well, I have a bunch of mods, so it would make it even worse if you were new to the game and saw this. But like you see all the parts, right? People all think, oh well, I have all the parts. I can make whatever I want. I want to fly to the moon, and I want to fly there now. But the thing they don't think about is this isn't No Man's Sky. This isn't just a arcade, space game where you can't just slap a bunch of parts together and just hope they work. And then, people are will get looking at this and like, wow, this is a lot more to this than I realized. Look, command pods, fuel tanks, and then there's like command control, where freaking aerodynamics, coupling, and it gets overwhelming, right? And then they just start grabbing random stuff, and they don't know which one of these pods is the best. Oh well, this one looks cool. Let's go and do this, and then just go and oh strap an engine to it. Oh, this looks like it would be neat. Let's go and do this. Oh, that looks cool. And then they go and do something like this, right? Where they go and they think that this is gonna actually work. Oh, I maybe might do something else. I don't know. Obviously, but like then they'll do something like this, and why isn't this going? Well, there's no fuel tank. Stuff like that. But the thing is, when you have, see, this is the thing. Why I see it call this such a noob trap is you have all these parts, right? And while I still recommend going like looking up tutorials or whatever, yeah, and game tutorials aren't the greatest because the worst thing is, unless I still recommend someone show you what to do if you're struggling with the game. But one of the things that I recommend people all one of the things I recommend people do is avoid Sandbox. It's great for once you learn the game and understand what you're doing a little bit. Maybe you want to mess around, strap some parts together, and want to blow stuff up. Okay, that's cool. Or maybe you want to try out some builds. Sandbox is great for playing around with that. But the thing is, when you're first getting into the game, I highly recommend that people, when they're first starting, go for, well, I highly recommend people choose career. And the reason I say career mode is because you get objectives, right? Whereas like science mode, science mode is I also would be all right because you still start off with like limited parts and stuff. But the reason, right, I would say go to career is when default noob, I don't know. Anyways, but like go in the career, and the reason I recommended is because you start everything is basic, right? Everything's at the still needs to be upgraded. You get the basic launch pad, you get the basic vehicle assembly building, and then let's say you still don't know what you're doing. Well, here's the thing. Well, uh, if you ignore the fact that my game's modded, I got pro start, but still the same principle basically, right? Because you get this. Look. This is why I say start with career or even science mode, because science mode will start you with limited parts too. But you don't have a bunch of stuff to play around with. And then people will say, well, I want to get to the moon now. But the thing is, if you don't learn how, you're not going to get there. You can't just point towards the moon and fly straight there. I mean, you kind of can, and you might get lucky. It's actually possible to get lucky enough to fly there. But this is why I like it. You get these limited parts, right? And then let's just go back out for just a moment. And let's say you want to look at the other buildings, and then you're looking around and you see mission control. Oh, at the mission control, and you look at the contracts, right? And it's like, oh, first flight. Oh, stuff, launch a vessel, leave the launch pad. And some people are like, oh, well, I don't want to do that. That sounds boring. But the thing is, these little basic little things of just doing this, it gives you an idea. It gives you objectives and it gives you goals to work for. Let's say you pick these up, right? Pretty simple. Well, pick these up. You go in here, you go and build your rocket or whatever. Let's just strap one of these. Let's put one of these fleas on here or whatever. And then I don't think there's anything really else to do. You might. Let's say this is your first vessel. I'm not going to put fins on it because let's just assume it's your first vessel. Well, I'm gonna also assume maybe you looked at the basic controls. Okay, if you don't know your basic controls, if you do have SAS, T is SAS, Z is full throttle, max throttle, X turns it off. You can also adjust a little bit of right. Anyways, these fleas, they're solid boosters. Anyway, you turn on your SAS, you do this. Okay, well, there you go. You just did your first mission, right? And because you had those limited parts, you were able to get that. It might seem this here is basic, but you were able to build it without being overwhelmed, right? And this is why I like career. When I first got into this game, I went straight to career mode. Why? Because I'm like, I want to learn how to play this game. I want to learn how to do it right. I mean, you can play. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, you can go and play Sandbox and have fun. There's no real specific way to actually play this game. You can play, that's why Sandbox mode exists. It's for the people that do want to mess around and just do whatever. But how many people don't get into this game because they go straight to sandbox mode and get overwhelmed and they're like, yeah, this game's no good, you know. But here's the thing: if you want to get into it, if you want to fly to the moon, if you want to fly to other planets, look up some videos. I highly recommend looking up Scott Manley. Even his old videos are good to watch because they're still relevant. Learning how to actually orbit, learning things like actually doing your gravity turn and stuff, when you should be turning, how to actually get a proper orbit, how to set up maneuvers and stuff. Here's the thing about this game, right? At the end of the day, it's a space simulator. If you want to just fly to planets and just go flying all over the universe through galaxies and stuff, yeah, you got other games like No Man's Sky for that. If you want to learn how space travel actually works, things like gravity assists, things like actually getting in the orbit, things how like Delta V and how fuel works. A lot of people that don't realize, like, they all just strap a bunch of fuel tanks together and put an engine on it, and then it won't take off the platform. You know, that's another thing. You can only have so much fuel. You have thrust to weight ratio. If your rocket is too heavy and doesn't have enough thrust, it won't push your rocket. You know, different things that just different things to just look into and try to learn. You're not here at the end of the day. This isn't a game that you can get into with a short attention span and have the mentality of I have to do this now. I want to get this now, right? You can always Here's the thing. You can always go to your track. Again, ignore the. I'm heavily modded, but you can always go to your tracking station. And look? Where's some places to set some goals? Where do I want to go? And then again, that's why I recommend doing, you know, doing missions, because it will give you stuff like, okay, now it wants you to reach the upper atmosphere. Oh, the Carmen line. Oh, okay, you break the sound barrier. Well, this is actually, I love this mission pack, by the way. This actually adds these missions. If you're wondering if these aren't in your stock, why these aren't in your stock game. But and then you get stuff just like suborbital trajectory. Okay, you just look at this. Oh, I just have to get to reach this height. Okay, that's just basic stuff. And then eventually you do get the contracts to go to the Mun. You get the contracts to go to Minmus. Get the contracts to go like Duna, Eve, so on and so forth. You get that. But the thing is working up to that point. Here's the thing. You do enough of the basic missions, hopefully by the point that you're actually learning how to orbit Kerbin, you're actually learning how to get to other celestial bodies. I'm not the best game person at this game, right? But I took the time, I watched videos, and I got better at it, you know? And then I actually eventually did get, things into space to get to other planets. I've actually learned I can get, well, not currently, but my current save, but I could get anywhere on this map if I have the right parts. I know how. I'm not the best person at the game, but I know how to set transfers, how to set maneuvers, how to do Delta V readouts and stuff. What I need to the basics of how to do it. It sounds confusing, but if you take the time to actually learn it, it's not that bad. Here's the thing. I thought this game was going to be super freaking difficult when I first got into it. And it is a little bit overwhelming at first. But then again, like I said, career mode, that really helped me a lot. Like even over science mode, I recommend career mode for the fact that you have actual missions and have actual objectives. If you can make up your own objectives, right, then it's fine. Anyways, that's just what I want to talk about. I think I've talked a little long enough now, explain myself. But like, really, if you really want to get all the way here to the moon, or even way off in the distance to somewhere like Jewel, there's Duna over here. If you just like learning the basics of how to get in orbit like this, how to have a nice stable orbit, and actually being able to figure out where you go, you know, trust me, take the time to learn it. You will be really happy that you took the time, because got all these people, they play the game like once and they give up because they think that it's too difficult because they played sandbox mode. Anyways, This has been Wolf, and I hope you like this video. If you want to see more, like, subscribe, whatever, all that jazz, and have a great day, everyone.